And even in today's mathematics, they refer to that as a irrational number, or a transcendental number that is infinite in its presentation and scope. And they call it phi, P-H-I. And then another number that's in relationship to it called pi. And the ancient Greeks called this sacred meal phi pi. And for instance, your finger is a tripartite. It comes in 3 parts, a small part in relation to a larger part in relationship to the whole. And it's a very specific 1 to 1.6 measurement. And your arm is the same way. You have the hand, you have the forearm, and then the full arm. It's a 3-part system. The leg, the same way. You have a foot, a shin bone, thigh, same thing. And they divided the body into 3 levels as well. From the feet to the navel was the basement of the house. And they believed this was a house, an abode, a place where you lived that was somehow in its design mysterious to the point they didn't think you could ever fully comprehend the deep mystery behind it. That somehow this house stands in a 5-pointed star shape, and that it is a microcosm of a larger scale of existence, that everything out there literally in a smaller way is inside of us. And so from the navel to the throat was the main floor, and then from the throat to the top of the head was the upper rooms or heavens. The word heaven comes from heaven, meaning raised up, the rest of the building proper. And they divided the heavens, where all the windows and doors are kept, into 3 levels as well. Chin to nose, first heaven, nose to brow, second heaven, brow to the top of the head, the third heaven. And in the third heaven, they believe that you have an eye that always sees, and it sees in all ways. And some groups called it the third eye. There was nothing mystical or strange about it. It's just how they counted, 1, 2, 3. And today we call it the mind's eye, or the eye of imagination. But what they noticed was that offerings out in creation or nature's table are designed to be brought into the inner kingdom to enhance and to maintain this construct. And today we call it foods. But they are brilliant, living entities. And each food has a message that is brilliant and very intelligent. And as we bring them to the house in their unprocessed, untampered with state, they deliver profound things to every part of this house. And they realize that the foods come in 3 levels of presentation on the earth as well, a tripartite. That there are foods that grow in the basement of the earth, under the ground. And they believe that those foods in the basement of the earth profoundly affect the deepest parts of the foundation of this house, right down into the bone marrow and the bones themselves and their structure. Then they believe the foods that grow on the main floor of the earth, like the tomatoes and vine crops and melons and grains and lentils and beans and all of the things that we typically have in gardens, profoundly affect the main floor. And then the foods that you have to reach into the heavens to get, the nuts and the fruits, profoundly affect the heavens here. And what's fascinating is that I've been out there barking this stuff for 30 years, and finally I am invited now, and I lecture at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and they're looking at very specific technologies and unlocking some of the mysteries of the patterns in deciding food. Cornell Medical in New York City, Johns Hopkins in Washington, D.C., and UCLA, and the University of California, Berkeley, and San Francisco. And so they're finally feeling like I'm not as weird and out there as they once thought. And so now I'm invited, and I actually teach doctors about nutrition in a way that they have never had it presented.
Well, they don't learn nutrition, do they?
Not at all.
So
and they can opt not to, even though some classes are there. They can choose not to, and most of them choose not to.
And you're not getting any resistance from the medical profession?
Not from the medical profession itself, but from the pharmaceutical industry that I call the pharmaceutical drug lords, that actually financed and built the medical schools, and they determine what is taught at the school. I am getting some resistance there.
And why would that be?
It threatens their industry. The pharmaceutical industry actually has one purpose, and that is to drive the price of the stocks for their shareholders, to increase profits. And I think that that's why a lot of people today are starting to become disillusioned with the pharmaceutical and cut, burn, and poison process that they offer to the medical doctors, who then treat us, and we go to them out of fear. Because the pharmaceutical industry has perpetrated and they perpetuate the notion that disease is a mystery. And it's not a mystery. But they teach it that way, and so it's presented to us that way, that cancer is a mystery, diabetes is a mystery, you know, liver problems is a mystery, arthritis is a mystery, and it's not. It's not a mystery at all. And these ancient people knew how to target these anatomical sites in the physiology of our body and remit existing conditions that we call disease, and even prevent them in the first place if we're just smart enough to go and see it. For instance, this doctrine of signature, sign of nature. Everything has a sign of its nature in treating problems and actually maintaining vitality and going. For instance, the ancients taught that if you have a carrot and you slice it, the pattern or the sign of its nature as an offering to the body is the human eye. A carrot looks like it has a pupil with an iris and radiating lines.
And we do know that carrots are good for eyes.
Absolutely. They spent $75 million researching that. Finally confirmed that those people back then knew what they were saying. And it's true. The ancient Greeks, and it's recorded under glass in the old Greek letters, a description of the walnut being for the brain. And they actually have it in one of the wings of the Vatican in Rome, and you can read it. They believed that walnuts were for the brain. And if you look at a walnut, it looks like it has a left and right hemisphere. It's got the wrinkles, just like the convoluted geotic folds of the neocortex. It's got the upper cerebrums, lower cerebellums, the membrane that separates the whole thing, just like the corpus callosum. And it was Baylor University in the United States that published their findings of the nutritional impact it has on the human metabolic process. And now they know that walnuts, just a single walnut, will metabolize, go into the bloodstream, cross the blood-brain barrier. The brain chemistry will take the flesh of the nut in that presentation and act as a precursor and develop over 36 neurotransmitters for cognitive enhancement or brain function. And in fact, the natural fibers of a walnut will help remove plaque, such as lipofuscins and amyloids, from the brain that lead to senile dementias like Alzheimer's and actually restore memory. So it's fascinating because they taught that anciently, and today it's being
prunes.
confirmed.
I remember hearing you once say about prunes as well. And you know what we did in the office? We went straight down and brought walnuts and prunes.
Oh, beautiful. And they go so well together. What a fabulous meal offering for the brain. And they work so well. There's 7 known nutritional fibers. And the fibers in whole foods is what does the house cleaning, along with water and salt and walking and sunshine. But brilliant, and it really works. The ancients looked at an avocado and believed that it looked like a womb and a cervix. Has one swollen seed, just like a woman who's pregnant. And now today's studies show that if a woman would eat just 1 avocado a week, she'll prevent cervical cancers, distensions of the womb, strengthens the hormonal balance of the female, helps a woman to shed unwanted stored fat, especially birth weight. And it takes exactly 9 months from blossom to ripen fruit for an avocado. It just blows you away as you get deeper into this and start to see.
So you found this not through one text, but through many, many years of text from different cultures. They were all saying basically the same sort of thing.
They're saying the same kind of thing, and they were hinting at all of this, but finally that one translation of a single scroll where it was all just laid out together, it brought it together for me. Until then I had bits and pieces and I knew it meant something, but I didn't really quite know what. And then finally that experience where it pulled it all together and simplified so many things.
Talking about brain, I believe you studied as a neurosurgeon.
Yeah, I'd attended and audited classes at Duke University in the medical department there, and thought I wanted to be a neurosurgeon. And
was that during that 17-year period?
It was actually just previous to it. I actually, for myself personally, and you got to remember this is back in the late 60s, and we were a little rebellious back then against the establishment, but I didn't like what I felt was the elitism and the politics of the medical school at that time. And I had a pretty good situation going there, and so I upset a lot of people when I walked away. But now, looking back, I have absolutely no regrets. Because I realize, again, that people are becoming disillusioned with cut, burn, and poison and the mystery of disease.